Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. My name is Amanda Payne. I am the president and CEO of Amplify Clearwater. And with me today, I am so excited to be joined by Miguel Miranda and Roger Curlin, both stalwarts in the hospitality industry. So I'm excited to have them with us, and they have offered to share a little bit of their knowledge regarding the challenges that we are facing from an employment standpoint within our hospitality industry. They are the co-founders of the Pinellas Independent Hospitality Forum, and they've really worked very hard to really be that point of connection for our hospitality industry within Pinellas County, and have really put a lot of time and effort into some initiatives surrounding employment and surrounding the other challenges that the industry faces. So thank you for joining us today. We're happy to have you. I'd like to give you each a chance just to tell us a little bit about yourselves and your background, and how the Pinellas Independent Hospitality Forum came to be.
Miguel, I'll go ahead and kick it off, and then we're used to tag teaming with the forum because we've been doing this now since last year. So Miguel and I saw a real need in the hospitality industry with all of the challenges over the last year plus. And so we put together this forum and said, let's get all of our independent operators, owners, managers, teams together along with our leaders to help deal with some of these crises that we've got in front of us. And traditionally, the nationals, the chains, the big organizations, they have all of these pieces in place to have these discussions and to handle this. The independents, not so much. And it's been amazing. We've got over 100 people now involved with the Pinellas Independent Hospitality Forum. And what we do is we have a monthly call where we all come together, we share data, we share ideas, we share best practices, we update each other. And then the weeks between that monthly, Miguel and I film a video update and give them all the things that they really need to know on this very, very fast moving industry. And then quarterly, we've been blessed to have Amplify Clearwater and St. Pete Chamber and the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce, the local city officials, county officials, local educational institutions. We all get together quarterly and also are now focusing on hospitality. And so while I know that staffing challenges are not just in the hospitality industry, there are other industries also facing this challenge. This is Miguel and I's background and our baby. So we really focus on that. Besides the forum, I also own a member dining club called Club Savor. I'm invested in local restaurants and bars, and just love this area. Been here most of my life. So Miguel, I'll tease it over to you, and then we can get going.
You just follow up with Roger. What you had to say is that my passion, my heart is for the hospitality industry, having been in about 25, 30 years. And the reality is that without a successful industry like that in Pinellas County, I don't think what makes us special stays special. We have beautiful beaches. We have obviously phenomenal Florida weather, but that uniqueness of being predominantly independent restaurants all throughout the county is really important. And I think that's why people travel here, to have a great experience. And so what I'm seeing locally, I'm seeing it nationally, through my company, my restaurant CFO, which is a financial services company for restaurants. We see it all over the country, but we're seeing it really amplified here, unfortunately, because a couple of the variables, you and I've talked about in respects to us being in the peninsula, and just how much outsiders are moving to the area, bringing influx of new cash, which is bringing home prices up and things like that. We're having a really significant and unique problem that I think is tougher for us to solve. And so I'm passionate about here. I love being here. I've lived throughout the country, but I'm planning on staying here. So I'm like you, we want to make sure that this industry thrives here in the area. And we need to bring other individuals like Amplify Clearwater to be part of the solution to solve the situation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both. And for those of you that are watching and not just listening to this, you will see that Miguel is in an RV. So he is actually traveling in our state right now, enjoying the beauty from another view. So thank you for Miguel for taking a few minutes away from your family to join us today and have this opportunity for our members. Let's start a little bit and talk about just kind of staffing challenges overall. We recognize while Florida voted for a $15 an hour minimum wage in November, not everyone is there yet. We also recognize that unemployment still remains attractive across the board and nationally. And so when we talk about, hourly wage versus cost of living, you mentioned the, real estate market is just on fire here. I know there was data prior to the pandemic that there were 1,000 people a day that moved to Florida was the statistic. I think that has nearly doubled since the pandemic. Everybody's decided they want a piece of our sun and sand. And while we're grateful for that influx of residents, we also know that it creates a challenge for those that are currently living here, need to continue to live here. It increases cost of rent, right? It increases cost of buying a home. So let's talk a little bit about just from a high level view, the challenges surrounding staffing and why we're facing this shortage.
Miguel, I'll jump in real quick. To me, it's the math. So there was some great statistics at the quarterly forum that we just had a few weeks ago. So in 2019, there were 100,000 people working in hospitality in Pinellas County in 2019 at this period we're in now. So here we are 2 years later. Our revenue as an industry is actually probably a little bit above what it was in 2019. And we only have 65,000 people employed in that industry. So it's a 35,000 person gap. As you said, unemployment is really low right now, back to 4%. So we're about 0.5% off historic lows for this area. There's only 20,000 unemployed people in Pinellas County. So the math just does not add up, right? With those 20,000, there's probably some geographical, demographical, and maybe skill set differences to get all those back in, to pull them all into hospitality. And then the other industries are looking for folks too. So the math just doesn't add up. And I want to give one more point to what you said, Amanda, and then toss it over to Miguel. So affordable housing right now is a huge issue. So even if you're making that $15 an hour, the math where they say about a third of your income goes towards housing, you're looking at an $800 rent. Well, in Pinellas County, the average is $1,400 a month. In St. Pete, it's $1,500 a month. So again, math is a hard thing to counter. And that's two of the things that we're up against. Not enough bodies, no matter what's going on. And the housing is another issue.
Yeah, to make matters a little bit worse on that is I think the home pricing you're talking about, it's only going to continue going up as new construction goes on, as renovations, a lot of homes being flipped. In my neighborhood, I will tell you what, from the time that I moved to here 6.5 years ago to where we are today, the average where we're seeing home pricing has gone up about $100,000 for the exact same homes. Nothing else has been different. And so we see this problem continuing to happen. The one solution that we've seen nationally when this starts to happen is people start looking to the suburbs. Typically, suburbs are a little more affordable than the actual big cities, whether it's New York, Philadelphia, Washington, Chicago, and whatnot. The challenge we have here for Pinellas is we don't have suburbs. Our suburbs are the water. And so it's really hard to get someone to come in from an outside area all the way in. If you look for the closest affordable housing in respects to the dollar amounts you're talking about, we're looking all the way to the other side of the bay, meaning Ruskin, Riverview area, which, for Pinellas, that's an hour trek. And if at best, if you took the crosstown, shuttle or anything like that, like a boat, it's too much, especially for people who don't have the type of, transportation that you would need to get back and forth. Let alone the traffic, which beginning of pandemic, there was no traffic, but we're getting close back to the amount of traffic we used to have. So that becomes a real big issue. And if you go north to us, you have to go now deeper into Pasco County to start getting to the affordable housing numbers, which if you work in downtown St. Pete or maybe Paso Grill or St. Pete Beach, you're not going to get to that. Maybe definitely Clearwater, you have more of a chance to get that. But even so, because of traffic, it's just not attracting the amount of people you need to get to that area.
And I can tell you, even Miguel, you mentioned your neighborhood. Even the same way in mine, I've been just astonished at what houses are going for and how quickly they're moving, right? So, I think while it's nice for the homeowner, right, it creates a challenge for those that are looking to join our area, move to our area. I've actually interviewed myself, begun to interview people for some of our visitor-facing stations, our visitor information centers. And I've interviewed people that are in other states right now that are looking to move here. And they've said to me, I can't find a place. Like, I want to be there tomorrow, but I can't find a place to live, but I'm also looking for talent outside the state, because what I'm finding in the state, there's just it's not available. So much like everybody else, the chamber is also facing that challenge as well. So thinking along those lines, are there pockets within our population, whether it be high school students, college students, retirees, are there pockets within our population that may not be included in that unemployment number, right? Roger, to your point, there's a large gap between those that are documented unemployed and what the industry needs. Are there thinking creatively, are there other ways to reach your high school students, your college students, maybe your retirees that are looking for something part-time just to be engaged? Do you have any thoughts around reaching those sectors of the population?
Absolutely. And so one of the things, and I think you're referring to the hospitality staffing initiative that Miguel and I have worked on through the Pinellas Independent Hospitality Forum. And when the math didn't add up, Miguel and I started talking about, well, where are the bodies that we can bring into this industry? And as all complex challenges, there's got to be a variety of answers. And so I'll just tick off real quick some opportunities for where I believe we can capture some workers back into the industry. So there are amazing retirees in this area. And I know some of them, maybe living Social Security check to Social Security check, or there may be some of them, they're just like, I'm missing something. I want to get something back in my life. So picking up one shift, 2 shifts, a lot of them have skills in this industry. I would love to see that kind of combination of getting some of our wisdom back into our hospitality businesses. But like these other items I'm going to list, it requires outreach. It requires a path with maybe some training or some reminding. So retirees, I think, are a great opportunity. Another one is we have to go back into the high schools, back into the colleges, and preach about this amazing, vibrant, fun industry. So I like to preach, if you're looking for a career, if you're looking for cash, if you're looking for a change of pace, you can come into this industry today and make $40,000 to $50,000. No matter what position you're in, you can make really, really good money and up right now. And it's more flexible as an industry than it's ever been before. So I don't care what your schedule is as a high school or a college student, there is a job for you in this industry. And it's a great industry. And so that's another quadrant. I also look at what I call full-time positions, professional positions that may not be having a full-time schedule right now, i.e. realtors, people that are in the massage business, the salon business. So what I would view it as, if I was someone in those industries, is find a great place that you like, work 1 shift, 2 shifts. You're going to meet a ton of people. You're going to end up building your clientele for your core business, and you're going to make some extra cash. Right now, I don't know many people are like, oh, I got so much money, I don't know what to worry, nothing to worry about right now. And so, making a little bit of extra money is great as well. And so I look at adding those other categories. And my last one, and I'm a big proponent, I work with a lot of charities, as does Miguel. There are differently abled people in our society, whether it's physical or emotional or mental, that with proper support and proper training, they're amazing in this industry, right? And so let's team up with those organizations as well. So my philosophy is we need to divide to conquer. Look at a lot of different segments to bring people into this really great industry. And that's going to get us partway there to the solution with bodies. And I'm sure you'll ask in a little bit, we'll chat then. There are some things we can do for the industry that are not specific to people that will help the people. So that's just a few of mine, and I'll let Miguel chime in.
No, thank you. That was definitely an exhaustive list, but many more things who can be done. And one thing that we're seeing as well is obviously what kind of benefits we can offer to potential employees. And one of the biggest challenges is child care and education. So I actually sit on an advisory board for the Early Learning Coalition, and we're having conversations about how we can come around the hospitality industry and help employers and employees recognize how they can take care of the children, as well as offer education and childcare. And there's resources available from the county and from the state and federal government to help supplement and supply some of that. So part of the reasons people don't come to work for hospitality industries because our odd hours, we're predominantly busier at nighttime and on weekends when that child care or school care is not available. So we're actually looking to see how we can, share that information, what resources were available. That way, a lot of those people who basically are counting themselves out to this industry could be counted in. And like you said, Roger, for a part-time business, hospitality offers one of the fastest way for you to make a higher level of income, especially if you're in a tip position. And so for a lot of these parents, this would be a perfect situation where they can make almost full-time money in a part-time situation.
That's wonderful. And as a mother of two young children, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, as you both know, childcare is incredibly challenging, even in any situation, no matter what walk of life you're in, no matter what profession you're in, childcare is incredibly challenging. And as a mother, you obviously want to be sure that your child is in the best environment that you could provide for them as well. So I think that is a critical component to attracting those back into the workforce. I know several of our colleges, I know USF was looking at, returning mothers to the workforce and doing a program specifically for them and tailoring it to them. And I agree. I think that's a sector of the workforce that may not necessarily be on the unemployment roll, so we may not recognize them as people available to work, but potentially could make it attractive enough to come back into the workforce. Talk to me a little bit. So if you're a business, because this is where chamber is so important, right? And I think the roles that we play, and certainly the role that the Pinellas Independent Hospitality Forum plays as well. How, businesses are busy. They don't have the ability to go out and recruit. I remember the last job fair that we did, which was in 2019. We didn't even try one in 2021 because we had everybody there wanting to recruit and nobody showing up to be recruited, right? And so then it's a waste of their time because businesses don't have time to send out their employees to something that's not going to be successful and drive value and return on investment for their organization. So if you're a business and you're trying to think outside of the box and be attractive to these groups of folks, or maybe reach out, even connect with these types of folks that you would not otherwise, is there a different way of marketing, of communicating, of potentially touching them? How do you get their attention?
Miguel, I'll let you start with that one.
Well, one thing we've seen, thanks. One thing we've seen successfully is really look at it from a point of view of how do you attract new customers? And what is the best way to market for new customers? Well, it's all been said, word of mouth is the best way to do it. It's the most inexpensive, but the most lucrative and most beneficial way to grow your business is by having your customers tell other people how amazing you are as a business and to come check you out, how great your food is, how great your service is. So taking that same way of thinking and apply it to your employees. So have your employees themselves obviously push about how great it is to work for you. And traditionally it's been done, hey, do you have a friend that's available, is looking for a job and come join us? And that may work. The unfortunate is a lot of people are actually working so much, they don't have any friends to go talk to, or they're already working with them. So using social media as a mechanism to connect and show what kind of workforce you have. If you kind of run through most Instagram pages and Facebook pages or TikTok pages of most employers that are restaurants, they're usually showing what their food is, maybe what the location looks like, especially if they're beachside. Oh, look how beautiful it is. But very seldom does it actually show what does it look like to actually work there. And so we're seeing clients that I'm working with that are actually showcasing what it looks like to be an employee here. Whether it's a profile page, whether it's, hey, just great pictures of people having fun, or talking about the benefits, or highlighting the employee of the month or employee of the week or type situations, shows the people who are fans of that brand, hey, you know what? It looks kind of fun to work there. And we've seen big brands do this, like Disney does on a regular basis. And yes, we know what Disney does, but tell you one thing, Disney does not pay top dollar. So it's not about the money always. It's about the fact that you want to go work somewhere where you feel like you belong. And so showcase that brand side of your company on your social media is the fastest way, especially if you look at the target market we're going after, which generally is younger people, which we know they're more on social media than any other platform. They're not looking at newspapers, not looking at Craigslist ads or things like that. They're actually just really thinking, hey, I like seeing the world. What does it look like? And these are brands that I actually enjoy online. I may actually enjoy working there as well.
and I want to springboard off what Miguel said, and he's talking about that front entrance, right? How do you pull those folks in? I want to concentrate on the other side, because basically you can go to work pretty much anywhere and make a lot of money in this industry right now, right? So I look at three things that you as an owner or a manager of a business have to make sure that are there, in my mind, which is training, technology, and what I call menu technique. So you need to make sure those things are in place, so when that person does come into your business, they stay, because it is all about retention and attrition right now in the business. We regularly talk to owners that will hire 5 to keep 1. And that math doesn't work for anybody. It doesn't work for the employee. It doesn't work for the next business that they're going to, or the business they were taken from, as people navigate through this world. And so having great training, today's conversation is not to go, because that is a really deep conversation. It's something that Miguel and I do on the forum with our videos. So the training is a really deep conversation of how that needs to be done right. The technology piece, there are amazing technologies out there that rest in the POS space, that rest in the customer space, that rest in the menu space, that can significantly reduce the need for staffing. Not completely eliminate staffing, because that's the spirit of many of our places. But if you can go from a restaurant that has to have 15 people that day to run that restaurant to 10, the pressure on hiring, the pressure on retaining, et cetera, goes way, way down. And the pressure on the staff that's already there, right? That's one of the major challenges I'm seeing, is the staff, kind of like in the hospitals in the beginning of the COVID period, where the nurses, the doctors were overwhelmed and exhausted. These employees that are working now, way over hours, way over shift, way over tabled, are exhausted. And I'm fearful that we're going to begin losing some of those folks as well. And then the final piece of those three is the menu technique. You can design a menu right now that reduces your need for staff. In customers, as long as you keep your core items, your core flavor, your core personality, customers are cool with that. And the example I use for folks that are listening is, how much staff time does it take to prepare a smoked fish spread with some crackers and some vegetables versus cooking some jalapeno poppers or another cooked item, right? The staff time is much different. So making sure you've got a good menu that's balanced for minimal staff needs is a great way to reduce that. So Miguel's front side, perfect for drawing people in. But if you want to keep them, make sure that training, that menu technique, and then also the technology is there.
Awesome. I mean, that's it's not something I'd ever considered, right? It's just menu items and the difference in time that it takes to create certain items and talent and all of that. So very interesting point of view. I had never considered that. I know throughout COVID, many of our restaurants reduced items just based on food availability. But then also looking at it from that perspective of being most efficient with the team that you have and the time that it takes. Is certainly an excellent point. So I want to make sure that we push everybody to, I know you've filmed many videos and you've gone into depth on many of these different topics. I want to make sure we push our audience through those, and we'll definitely do that in the notes beneath this posting. But we might bring you both back on a little bit more to talk about some of these things in depth as well, because we'd like to make this kind of a mini series, for our North Pinellas County hospitality industry. And kind of attract them to the Pinellas County or the Pinellas Independent Hospitality Independent Forum or Independent Hospitality Forum, to make sure that they connect with you as well. Because I admire what you're doing. You're absolutely right. You recognize a deep need. I know Miguel recognized it early on in the pandemic. Did several sessions for us talking about what folks could do while they were shut down and really rethinking, their time off, so to speak, or their time closed. And it was very, very beneficial. So as we talked a little bit about using social media to attract employers and using technology to create efficiencies. And are there any specific recommendations you have related to both of those things? So when we talk about social media and are there any key phrases, any messaging that you think that works best when you're thinking about attracting a team?
At the end of the day, I think we all want to belong to something great. something fun, you're actually accomplishing something. And so when I asked an owner, I said, what makes you different? What makes, why should I come be part of your organization? Why should I eat there? A lot of times the answer I hear is, well, we have great food. And I always say, well, I hope you do, because that's actually the point of being in business. So that is, to me, the basically the price of being in the game. So beyond that, what makes you truly special? Not every organization is the exact same way, nor should it be. And I think as an owner, taking some time and spending with your top people, the people who've been there for the longest, your leaders, maybe some of your regulars, people that you're connected to your brand, and figure out, hey, what makes us unique and special? Because once you define that, it makes it so much easier to go out and look for people who actually want that. Simon Sinek says that people want to believe what you believe, want to be part of something that they believe that you believe as well. And so I think that's the big piece. If you don't understand that, it makes your messaging really convoluted. It makes it very generic, which doesn't really attract anybody. You've got to stand out. And so the same way you want to stand out in the marketing of your restaurant or your hotel to get customers, you got to stand out in how you attract and hopefully retain these employees. It's been said people don't want to work. I don't believe that. I think that people are giving more options than ever before. Same as they had more options now to eat, they have more options of where to work and what kind of work to do. If you were in high school before, or maybe, you could have, hey, I would just, I have to work in a restaurant. Or maybe you have to be a bagger at a grocery store. Now you can build an online business. My daughters actually sell jewelry online, and some, I think they upsell their old clothing. There's things you can do as an entrepreneur, as an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old. So we're battling to try to attract people for not just for our industry, but a lot of other industries. So you really have to stand out and say, hey, this is the why you should come work here. And also, finally, I would say is recognize the reality is the majority of the people who come work for us are not going to stay with us long term. And that's perfectly fine. So the question you have to answer is, what skill set am I sharing or teaching these individuals that they can take on beyond here? And I've heard many, many people. I actually had a conference call earlier this morning, and the person I was speaking to remember waiting tables back at Bennigan's when they first got started. But they shared how a lot of the traits they learned on service has helped them in their careers that has nothing near to be in hospitality. So whether you can be a lawyer, a doctor, working in an office environment, construction, you name it, there's a lot of skill sets that you learn in hospitality, whether it's cooking and how to take care of other people and teamwork, that can be applied somewhere else. So if you're very clear about when you come work for us, we're going to teach you those skill sets, I would want to come work for you than somewhere else. And so I think that's the big challenge that you got to take a look at, is really understand what your business stands for and then shout it from the mountaintops. That way you can attract the right people.
Yeah, I love that, Miguel. And right now, I always say, it's grouper is not on special. It's now hiring is on special. So you see these giant now hiring signs on every single restaurant. Doesn't matter the size, casual, fast, fine, everybody. So making a message resonate with the audience that you want to come work for you is really, really so critical. So think outside of the box, talk to your team and say, what are words, what are organizations that are important to your team that you have there, especially folks that are leaders already. I'm a big believer, I think I said it earlier, about charity and being involved in charitable organizations. So maybe that's another foray is look at those charitable organizations you've always given to and create some more giving and some more messaging that goes out, because people want to work for organizations that care about things other than just themselves. And so that may be some good messaging as well. I also tell people to borrow a little bit. So look all over the country in messages that other people are putting out for hiring that is unique, that is special, that is resonating, and steal it and put your own little spin on it, right? Where the wheel was probably invented in multiple places at multiple times. So, but the messaging is important, as to Miguel's point.
Absolutely. In the chamber world, we don't reinvent the wheel either. So I'm a big fan of borrowing from our friends. So tell me, so we've talked about wage, and then, as we begin to wrap up, there's one important piece that I don't think we've really touched on yet. And then I'd like to bring you both back to talk about some of these in-depth, maybe, benefits and some other things that I'd like to talk to in depth, but I want to be conscious of our time and then the viewer as well this morning, how much time they may have to give this conversation. But transportation, for us especially, there is two ways on and off Clearwater Beach, right? And both of those can be challenging, both directions at all times of the day during the busy season. Parking remains a challenge on Clearwater Beach. If you're an employee, where do you park? How much is it going to cost you? You couple that with what you're getting paid and your cost of living, the housing challenges. Transportation is going to remain a challenge for us, especially on our Clearwater Beach pocket, getting employees to and from work. Talk to me a little bit about, have you seen creativity in the transportation realm underneath brands? Obviously we've got the, water ferry in Clearwater, which is wonderful. We've got the Jolly Trolley, but are there ways that, those are public transportation sectors. Have you seen in the private market where our employers have been creative in transportation needs for employees?
Amanda, one of the things that, we talked about it a little bit earlier, I want to emphasize, we need all of our parts of our community to come together. So we need city, we need county, we need state, we need our chambers, we need our educational institutions, and then our owners and leaders. So everybody has to come together because each has a part to play in solving this challenge. Transportation is one of those where we do need help from the county. We do need help from the various cities. We do need help from different departments in the chamber, et cetera. Here are a couple of ideas, though, that I feel like are worth considering. Number one, I believe we need to get some late night bus lines that gravitate from areas where there's a large quantity of our workers living to where they're working, because most bus lines stop at 10, 11 o'clock at night. Well, most of our hospitality industry, they're going till maybe 11 or 12 with their shift, and then they're out, and then there is no bus line. And quite frankly, Lyft and Uber and those services are not affordable anymore for a round trip, long distance traveling. So some of the things that I'm a fan of are putting together a conglomerate to put together a carpooling system, because most people start shifts and end shifts about the same time in a quadrant. So you look at downtown Clearwater, you look at the beaches, a lot of them are starting and getting off around the same time. So putting together a kind of a carpool where people can chime in and can and do some ride sharing amongst themselves. That helps everybody. So I think for me, it's the bus lines and it is the car sharing, it's the carpooling. To me, those are the two things that can knock a lot of that, a lot of those challenges out. And then also integrating some other type of transportation, whether it be scooters or some of these other things that may require less parking, and creating an environment where a lot of scooters could park in one spot, maybe free, right? That incentivizes people, free parking, and you need a much smaller platform to get a bunch of those in. So really, really finding some of those things to me are hopefully some answers.
I would agree, Roger. I think one of the challenges comes in is resources and information. And obviously, we know the transit authority has the resource, i.e. the buses, the mechanisms to transport the people. The challenge comes in is that they have the information of where to run these lines to and from and what times exactly. And I think this is where it's a great opportunity for local businesses to come together, and whether it's under the umbrella of the chamber, saying, hey, how do we get together and find out where exactly does this need to go to? Look no further than the construction business. Where do the most workers come from? And it sounds kind of crazy, but there's a reason why construction companies drive by a Home Depot early morning, because there's a lot of workers available there for a meetup and say, okay, we needed so many workers for today. Same idea from hospitality. And again, if you look at where most of the affordable housing is for our hospitality employees, is making sure we have these lines going back and forth. The challenge would be for any owner is, how do I get them back and forth? Do we have that many minivans running around? We're tight on money. Can we afford that? Well, I think this is where the partnership between the transportation authority saying, can we rent a bus? Those will take a lot of our workers from maybe the beaches to into Pasco or all the way around to Hillsborough, on the far side of the bay, to get them home and back and forth. And I think if we have that available to our employees, we'll start pulling in a lot of different people who would prefer to work at the beaches, work in downtown Clearwater. I think, especially if you're a temp employee, that's where the money's at. I would rather work there. I just can't afford to live there. And this same problem has been solved all over. Again, look at Manhattan. A lot of people who work in Manhattan, the 33 million people that show up every single day, don't live in Manhattan. They live in Jersey, they live in Connecticut, they live in Long Island. And so that's where the lines go into it. We kind of have to create our own lines to some respect. I've worked with clients that actually done this individually. I will tell you that it becomes very costly and it's a challenge. So I think that partnership is key as we have this conversation and move forward and recognize there's real value there to our citizens.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both for joining us this morning. I appreciate your time and really just hitting the highlights from just kind of that top level view of those, conversations that you've had with both your clients and those in the hospitality industry, and sharing. We all recognize we're in this challenge and that we're facing this challenge together, that there are ways to be creative. And I appreciate you sharing some of those with us this morning. I hope to visit with you both again soon. Miguel, enjoy your trip. Thank you so much again for taking some time away.
Thank you.
And joining us this morning. And Roger, thank you as well. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you for having us.